Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Brad Popovich. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at Genome VC, and let me welcome you to Bringing Genomics Home. This is a series that we do. We travel around BC and we put on different events, and we just kind of try to bring topics of interest that we think would be of interest to the public around themes that are genomic, and I'm going to explain that in a lot more detail to you, what we mean by that. And tonight the theme of this is really on health, and what we've called this is your DNA, a blueprint to better health. And what we really wanted to try to do is to showcase, to tell you a little bit about Genome VC, what we do, and how we kind of are moving forward this science. But tonight what we really want to do is to show you how this is going to integrate into your healthcare, and how this is going to be part of we're really at the cusp of a change, a real major change in the way medicine is going to be practiced. And what we really want to do is present to you tonight some examples of how that's going to occur. And so what I'm going to do, so that's me. We go past that. And so let me just introduce you to our panelists really quickly. And I'm going to do a more formal presentation later. So we're really I'm just really gifted tonight to have three outstanding members of our medical research community here to join me on the podium tonight. So Joe Connors is going to talk about cancer and how genomics is impacting cancer. Clara Van Karnebeek is going to talk about metabolic diseases and different types of interventions, primarily in the pediatric period, and how this is being, how genomics is really impacting the diagnosis and management of these individuals. And Mel Prajden is going to be talking about hepatitis C and some of the remarkable advances that have been made in this disease, and some of the challenges, though, for a publicly funded healthcare system like ours in moving this forward. So what we really would like to do tonight is, our objective is really pretty simple. We would like to educate and inspire you on the growing role of genomics in healthcare in BC. And I'm going to kick this off, and what I'm going to be doing is giving you an overview of Genome VC and our areas of focus over the next 5 years. So what we've done is we work in 5-year increments in Genome VC, and what we do is we put forward a 5-year vision and strategic plan, and we're doing that right now from 2015 to 2020. And what I'm going to do tonight is explain to you in our health side of our portfolio what's coming forward. And again, it'll make a lot of sense in with the speakers that we have here tonight. So first of all, what is Genome VC? So Genome VC is a catalyst for the life science cluster on Canada's west coast. And you know, a catalyst is something that it's a stimulus. It doesn't change itself. It changes, it's a chemical term really. But what we're really trying to do is to create a vibrant economy around genomic technologies. And you're going to see in health how that really is occurring. Our mission is to generate social and economic benefits through the science of genomics. And our portfolio to date is a very sizable one. It's about $660 million that's been invested to date in about 211 projects and technology development. And we'll talk a bit more about that, and you'll see how this is intersecting things as we go through the presentations. And it's focused on all sectors of economic importance in BC and Canada. So in BC, we're focused on healthcare, and that theme tonight, but aquaculture and fisheries, forestry, mining, energy and the environment, and agriculture. So all the things that really make our economy tick in BC, and that our life forms have genomes, and these genomes are now accessible, and we're trying to actually use these for purposes that would be beneficial for each one of these sectors. So why genomics? I want to make sure that I set the tone for two key questions. So why genomics, and what's the impact on medicine? So when I used to teach medical students and teach them about this technology, I always like to explain it this way, is that genomics provides an understanding of the disease from the inside out. And what we mean by that, or what I mean by that, is that in simple terms, physicians are trained to look at symptoms. And they're trained to look at symptoms, and sometimes it's an X-ray or a CAT scan or whatever, but they look at symptoms. What genomics does is it flips that around totally. And what it does is it looks at the cause of the disease. And if you look at the cause, everything that radiates from that, the symptoms, are just, they radiate from that cause. And this is not a new technology, and I'll talk more about kind of the timelines on this, but basically it allows you to do this and to really unlock, to just really change the paradigm completely, 180 degrees. This information is beneficial for disease, for all aspects of disease management, from prevention, and you just, if you heard the news today that Angelina Jolie, that has a gene for breast cancer, and had her breasts prophylactically removed, so radical surgery to decrease her risk, now today has just gone under the knife again and has had her ovaries removed. And that's a dual risk with this particular gene that she carried for breast and ovarian cancer. So now she's reduced her risk to being the same as a person in the general population, or roughly thereabouts. So it can be used for prevention in a case like that, diagnosis, and you're going to hear examples of that, treatment, and you're going to hear more about that, and obviously for family planning, because we're talking about your genes, and we're talking about the genes, and we get half of those from our mom and half of those from our dad. And it's that simple. And so, and we pass those on to our children. And so, and we're going to give, and there are many, many, many examples of this, some of which are going to come out tonight in the discussion. So I like this slide because it just kind of puts into play where we're at with this technology. 100 years ago was approximately, it's a couple more than that now, but it was the first commercial plane flight. It flew across Tampa Bay. And I mean, probably nobody in this room can even count how many times they've been on a plane or remembers that. I mean, so it's become that ubiquitous now. This is amazing. 40 years ago, the first cell phone. I remember when my brother came home with one, and it filled up his trunk, of his car. And I just thought it was magic. But that's only 40 years ago. And 30 years ago, the first computer, the Commodore. And probably none of us even remember how many computers we've had. Now, in the middle of that, it's really quite interesting to place here that right in here, 55 years ago or so, was the first application of genomics or genetics at the population level. And it happened in Boston, Massachusetts for a disease called phenylketonuria, where newborns started to be screened for a disease that could be prevented if they in fact were detected in the newborn period. So genetics has been around for a long time. It precedes the cell phone in terms of its application at the population level. But this is where it gets interesting, DNA's journey, because at that point we weren't looking at DNA, we were looking at other types of biochemical things in the blood for PKU. So in 1953, Watson and Crick discovered the double helix and got awarded the Nobel Prize for that years later. In 2000, 2001, here Bill Clinton, flanked by Francis Collins and Craig Venter, they published the first draft human genome. It cost $3 billion to do that project. So for sequencing that first person, it was $3 billion. And it took 10 years. And it finished ahead of schedule and under budget. Francis Collins is very proud of that. He said it doesn't happen very much in federal research. And in 2014, that is me on the cover of The Sun, and there was an article that was done on me because I had my personal genome done. It cost $5,000, and that was done, and I'll be alluding to that as we go through this. And it was really the story around me pursuing that and having that done. So what led to this precipitous 1 million-fold decrease in the cost of genomic technology and the accessing of it? This is unprecedented. So again, we're going to have a lot of time for question and answers, and I ask any of you to tell me about anything that you're aware of that's decreased 1 million-fold in cost in anybody's lifetime, or in fact, over any time period. I'm aware of nothing. And genomic technology has decreased at that level, 1 million-fold over that time period. It's quite remarkable. So we've gone from a time when medicine was an art form, where the physician really studied the symptoms and became really good at putting together this constellation of symptoms and making a diagnosis. To now what we're entering is what I'm going to call next generation medicine, where we're taking this myriad of data, 3 billion points from an individual, and putting that information together and actually coming up with a cause. And that cause will be instructive then for the symptoms that we look at and the way that we treat the patient. So in knowing that cause, really, increase our knowledge of the underlying disease mechanisms, it allows us to look at options for early detection and treatment, and you're going to hear examples of that tonight. Treatment of chronic disease, of health maintenance, and all that can be used to change the environment that individual lives in, or the person could change their own environment, the behaviors of those individuals, and lifestyle. So this is going to affect every aspect of our lives. And in some cases, you're going to hear examples how it already is tonight. So what are we confronted with then is we have this technology that's come down incredibly in cost in an unprecedented way. And it's now making anything with any life forms, genomes, accessible. So we can study that. So for us to develop a strategy at Genome VC to actually move this forward, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we don't have unlimited resources, nor does the health system. So we have to do this in a very structured way. We have to make very, disciplined decisions, let me put it that way. So we have a very big funnel here. And what we're trying to do is to say, if we put things through that funnel, what are the opportunities that we should take forward? And that we should move forward at a research level and a research and development level in Genome VC. So if you look at diseases, I mean, it's everything from chronic diseases, infectious diseases, inherited conditions, to things that affect our health and wellness. So all those could be put into this basket. In terms of benefits, we could do it for improving health outcomes, improving the healthcare system efficiencies. In terms of just economic growth, maybe there's a company that could be developed. It could become a company that could provide jobs for thousands of individuals in the province. Maybe it's just for discovery. Maybe we're just trying to lead to new and better discoveries that could ultimately, at some point in the future, possibly benefit the system. So it's this whole continuum that I just showed you. So what we're really trying to do is focus in on the near-term feasible things that we could move through there, and actually have that be part of a longer-term plan also. And really what I'm going to tell you about now are the areas that we're really trying to focus on. And let me just show you a slide here that kind of just puts into perspective how all of our panelists today think about this as they move things through and into the clinical setting. And how we have to do that too. So you start with where ultimately what you want to do is benefit the health system. I mean, we want to do things in health that are going to ultimately have some benefit for society at large in BC. So if you go right back to the beginning here, you start with a need. So is there an unmet medical need? There's something that we could do better, maybe cheaper, maybe faster, that would improve the system's efficiencies. Is there a way to develop a tool or technology to do that? The third thing is, can we validate that tool or technology? And I can tell you that Genome VC now has been for 15 years, we've been doing this work in all three of these boxes right here. And we've been moving things from what we call discovery and applied research through translational research. And we've been doing this by investing in genomic health research across diseases based on merit. So we provide funding to people that have really good ideas and where those ideas get vetted by international peer review groups. And where they have impact, on society at large. But what we're really trying to do now is move these things into the population level. So we're trying to move this so that everybody can benefit from this technology, that it's no longer research, And that's where we use this little symbol, mind the gap. We want to get things to the other side here, where it's going to benefit society at large. And that's tricky to do, and it's very expensive. And just this box right here, to move things through this box, is between $10 and $50 million is the industry average per thing that you move through, per one thing. And it takes between 3 and 7 years. On average, it's around 5 at $30 million. So we can't do everything. So we're trying to be very strategic in what we move forward. So we've identified 4 areas, and we've identified these areas as opportunities in the next 5 years for very significant growth. And what we've defined is these on the basis of relative simplicity of their genetics. And believe it or not, the genetics can be quite simple in some cases. And diseases where this information can influence healthcare decisions. And again, the participants tonight, my panelists, are going to walk you through that. And lastly, what is technically and clinically feasible. And this is tough to predict some of this at times, but we do our best to try to walk through this. And so the 4 boxes that we're really looking at tonight, or 4 disease areas, are cancer, infectious diseases, rare diseases, and we'll kind of give you, again, Clara is going to give you a lot more definition on that. And the last one's pharmacogenetics, and we didn't mean to leave this kind of off the agenda tonight. It's an extremely important area, but in fact, some of the other speakers will be talking about indirectly about this pharmacogenetic area. It could be a talk in and of itself. Any of these could be. So with that, what I'm going to do is, again, our objective here is to educate and inspire you around this growing field of genomics and healthcare. And so with that, what I'm going to do is introduce our first speaker tonight. And let me just tell you a little bit about the agenda here, is that we're going to go through, each of the speakers is going to have roughly 15 minutes. It's going to leave us a long time at the end, about an hour at the end, for questions and answers. So please keep your questions, and we're just going to have a very friendly discussion up here, and just, we'd love to hear everything and anything that you're wondering about in this area.